Hello and good morning, everyone. It's an absolute delight to see you here in person. It's very exciting to be meeting people again, and particularly from such an exciting sector, the travel industry. This morning, we're going to take a look broadly at what is going on, how have customers changed, what is it they want in the future, and the health of the industry as a whole. Well, who better to discuss all of this with than a man very senior in Europe's market leader of package holidays, TUI. David Burling joined the travel industry, I believe, in 1990. And worked for Thomas Cook at the time. But he's been on the board of TUI now for about 5 years, I think nearly 6. And he is now the head of the CEO of Markets and Airlines. Welcome to the stage. And I should have introduced myself. My name is Tanya Beckett. I work for the BBC. So interviewing people is what I do a lot of the time. So hopefully this will be a very comfortable experience for everyone. David, welcome. It's good to have you with us.
Thanks very much.
I don't know if there's any way that we could get rid of that sound at the back, but we could give it a go. I just want to ask you at the moment, how do you see the health of the industry? No doubt you've seen this enormous bounce back that we've seen in other sectors. How dramatic is it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's obviously been a very difficult 18 months, but we started to see a real improvement in July and August in the Central European markets from Germany, from Netherlands and Belgium, and that has sort of spread. So the UK and the Scandinavian countries have really been very strong in the last 6 weeks as the restrictions have eased, the testing requirements have become less. And there's real increase in consumer confidence. So there's really, really strong momentum at the moment, which is really pleasing and encouraging for everyone in the industry. Yeah?
And how do you interpret that, just as a sort of pent-up demand that has suddenly come back?
Yeah, I think there's a number of factors. Obviously, vaccination levels are high in all the European countries. The regulations and testing has been rolled back. But as much as anything, it's that growing consumer confidence. COVID's not in the news like it was, but also we're getting tremendous price offers from a lot of the suppliers as well. So suppliers and hoteliers are wanting business. So you put all that together and you've got real momentum. And the pent-up demand a lot of people in the industry have been talking about for many months, really is there. I mean, people haven't had holidays for 2 years, so in a lot of cases, the demand is quite incredible. I mean, the Dominican Republic opened for the UK market on Thursday when it came off the red list, and our sales were up 569% on Friday. I mean, we've seen similar patterns when destinations have opened, whether it be Mexico, Cape Verde. I mean, demand for Lapland, people have not been to see Santa for 2 years, and the demand for Lapland is strong. The demand for Florida next summer, and it's not just the UK market. I mean, the German holiday period in October was incredibly strong. In some cases, demand was above the 2019 levels, and even in the UK, we actually operated a couple of days with 99% load factor over the UK October half term. So yeah, we're really seeing some momentum now.
And what sort of customers are coming back to the market, by which I mean demographics, what they want to spend? Are they looking for more upscaled experiences? Is it possible to interpret the figures?
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing an awful lot of people upgrading. I think people who have not had a holiday for 2 years are looking at upgrading to superior rooms and suites. We're seeing people book slightly longer durations of holidays. So in Germany, the average duration's gone up by 2 nights. Some people are upgrading to long-haul destinations. So there really is that pattern. And you've got customers who are real loyal to different destinations. So all of a sudden, when they open, you get a real surge, and it's just fantastic to see it after such a difficult period over the last 18 months. It's maybe a bit difficult to say whether all that will be long-term, because some of that is the pent-up demand because people haven't holidayed for 2 years. But certainly really, really encouraging signs.
And when you said a moment ago that your suppliers were you saying that they were lowering their prices? They're certainly making their prices attractive for you.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they haven't had business, and the suppliers, want to get confidence by getting business. So we're seeing, a lot of price offers. In some cases, from hoteliers or destinations where you wouldn't normally get it because they want to see the momentum. So, I mean, that's encouraging. I mean, I think the one thing that's been really clear through the pandemic is the cooperation between tour operators and suppliers, whether it's hoteliers, tourist boards. There's been incredible cooperation. Travel agencies, everyone in the whole chain has really cooperated because everyone wants to see travel back. Yeah.
And staying with the customers for a moment, I'm thinking my observation would be there appears to be a lot of flexibility available. Why is that? Is that because that's what customers want, or you're more able to offer it?
I think it is what people want. I mean, it became clear, certainly in the summer, when the regulations were changing almost daily, that we have to meet the demands of customers, and they wanted more flexibility to amend their bookings because something might change. I mean, at TUI, we have a holiday promise such that if anyone is impacted by COVID, at any time, right up to, an hour before they go on holiday, they can get their money back if they're impacted by COVID or one of their family is. But equally, other people want the flexibility to change because, other things have happened. And we're giving that flexibility. So this winter, if people want to amend their holiday, we're offering free amendments, 28 days before, for everyone, whether they've booked or any new bookings. So, and I think that flexibility will continue because, that's what customers are looking for.
Is that difficult to implement, though, from your side? Is that a lot of extra technology?
Some of it is technology, and we will be bringing that technology in. So over the next 2 years, we will bring more technology to manage that. A lot of it during the pandemic has literally been people, our staff working in call centers, tremendously difficult, making all these amendments and changes as the regulations change almost every week. So a lot of it has been done manually, and every single travel company has had to deal with this. And I can't state enough how much effort our people and all the people working in the companies have put into all these amendments and things to make sure that the customers get what they want.
In many sectors, we're hearing so much talk now about a blip in inflation. Well, we don't know if it's a blip or how long it will last for and how it might affect interest rates, but there's a lot of discussion around it. And I have a feeling that I imagine that the travel industry is the same as everywhere else, that suddenly you get a lot of demand and you have to ramp up supply to meet it. And that might be problematic, is it?
I mean, obviously, the travel industry is very diverse, so you've got to look at it in different destinations. So I think hiring back staff over the summer at very short notice because all of a sudden the advice has changed was difficult in some destinations. But we've got a very loyal employee base in the industry. People are travel people, so people have been very loyal. So maybe we haven't got quite the same issues as some other sectors. But you will get some inflation in staff costs. There'll be areas, no doubt, where there will be staff shortages. I think particularly in the digital IT areas, which I think is not a travel industry thing. It's happening everywhere, in the world, that there's shortages in those areas. But as I say, we're fortunate a bit. We've got very loyal employees. And of course, you've got also increases in energy prices, which we sort of have to adapt to as well. And this won't be the first time that's been the case in the industry. So.
Well, yes. So are there pricing pressures?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, energy prices are going up. However, in most cases, there's also currency benefits which offset some of that energy price increase. So in most cases, there is an offset between the two, but who knows where gas prices and aviation fuel prices might go. So obviously that's something we're looking at all the time.
Okay. Let's turn to another big event which is going on at the moment. COP26 is kicking off in Glasgow. And the travel industry often has the spotlight on it over its carbon footprint. TUI has obviously been very, very aware of this for years and years. Where is it now, though, in terms of its thinking? Is there a way of describing how it looks at carbon footprint?
Yeah, I mean, we've been involved in sustainability for 30 years, so our credentials, we always like to say our sustainability credentials are based on what we've actually done. So we were, very much at the beginning of, sustainability credited hotels, where effectively, in the last 5 years, we've put 43 million customers in hotels which are sustainability credited by the various bodies, and that has really, led the industry, or particularly the mainstream industry, in terms of sustainability. But equally, as we go forward with COP26, we see the challenges, if anything, are getting bigger. So we are very, very aware of our responsibility as the world leading tourism group, and our ambition has to match that responsibility in making sure we live up to the sort of future challenges with the sustainability agenda. So over the next few weeks and months, we will launch a new sustainability strategy, but I think it will have multiple focus. I mean, one of the key things is how we invest in sustainability with the local communities. So how we develop destinations in terms of sustainability. Can we develop more sustainable business models where there's much more focus on reuse, recycling, local purchasing in the destination? And tourism can be an incredible force for good in these destinations where not only can we use the local supply chain more, but the power of education in terms of informing people in the supply chain and the local suppliers about what they need to do best for sustainability. I mean, tourism generally and the scale and influence of companies like TUI can only be a good thing in making the destinations themselves much more sustainable. And also we've got to inform our customers, so being much more transparent to our customers about how we inform them about the choices they're making in terms of the relative sustainability of different holidays.
But so what you appear to be saying is that you're almost educating your suppliers and your supply chains. Would you see it that way? Is that your role?
Yeah, I think we do play a role in that. But it's not just educating, it's about co-creation. We've got to work with the supply chain in order to develop more sustainable solutions in the destinations. And I think TUI, we have a TUI Care Foundation, which has got multiple projects in the destination where we're looking at getting greater benefits from using local sources, whether it's using, local food in Mexico or different transport solutions in Morocco. So all sorts of things we can do with the supply chain, but it's very detailed. And that's why I think the benefit that TUI has been involved in this for 30 years. This is not something you learn overnight. You develop skills in this to work with your supply chain and really take it forward. But I'm optimistic that tourism, can be a force for good in sustainability.
But where would you aim to get to? Is there a way of describing what sort of footprint, not just in terms of carbon, but also the environment any particular hotel should have? What is the end game?
I think, I mean, obviously, you know the 2050 targets. We will, as I say, we'll be unveiling our strategy over the next few weeks and months. But I think certainly in terms of the destination, I think we've got to be really ambitious in terms of creating more sustainable business models to get the destinations to net zero quicker than that overall target. I mean, there's other parts of the chain which technically are more difficult. But in aviation, for example, TUI, out of the world's 200 biggest airlines in the atmosphere index of CO2 emissions, TUI's airlines were number 1 and number 4 in the world when that index was last run. So we are leading, but in aviation, the challenges are more difficult because the technology, is not going to be there tomorrow to sort out aviation. But I think I'm an optimist that, over time, as long as there is a will, and I think the tourism industry needs to be open-minded and embrace sustainability and have a real focus in reducing emissions and investing in technology, not just talking about offsetting, but really genuinely investing in the science. And as we've seen in other parts, if you'd have looked at wind turbine technology 10, 15 years ago, people might have been pessimistic that wind or solar was going to play the part it did. And now there's been tremendous innovation in those segments. And I think with the right attitude and mindset, over a 10 to 20-year period, we can see the same scientific innovation in aviation.
To what extent are customers driving that change as well? Are customers individually making demands of you?
Yeah, I mean, every customer will have their own views on this, and that will change over time. And that's why we want to give transparency to customers when they're booking their holiday. And this will continue to evolve, probably in one direction, but it will continue to evolve, and we'll respond, to customer needs and respond to that, and the whole industry will.
We've established that we're seeing levels go back up. I don't think I've asked you where we are in terms of pre-pandemic numbers. Do you have thoughts on where we might be in the curve?
In terms of?
Numbers, people booking holidays.
Oh, sorry. So where we are in terms of bookings is that, for TUI anyway, over the winter, we're hoping to get back to between 60 and 80% of the levels we saw in 2019. But by next summer, we're hoping to be back up to the 2019 levels. Now, obviously, that requires a continuation of the momentum. But these are figures we announced in our trading reports at the beginning of October. And, since then, the momentum has continued. So we think we can get back to those levels. And certainly in leisure travel, we are involved in the part of the market which is leisure travel. And generally, durations of mainly 7 nights plus. That part of the leisure market, has real momentum in it.
Yeah.
Business travel may be a bit slower.
Well, I was about to say, business travel is slower to recover, and where it's going, who knows. But the two aren't entirely separate, are they? They do affect each other, or would you say in your case not?
In our case, no. Most of our holidays are for 7 nights plus, and most of our customers, to be fair, book holidays once or twice a year. Obviously, there is a business travel market. There's also a market that books maybe short break leisure, your weekends away. And again, that might be slower to come back, if nothing else, because the testing and form filling becomes a bit disproportionate if you want to take a 2-day holiday. But I expect, that will change over time.
Do you think, therefore, so what you appear to be saying is that people are thinking perhaps they will stay for longer if they do go because it's a bit of a rigmarole. Do you think there'll be any standardization of this form filling? At the moment, if I go to France, I have to fill in a French form, or to the UK, a UK form. Is there any more simplification that could happen?
I mean, in terms of the average length of stay, we are seeing the average length of stay of people be longer. That might be because people haven't travelled for 2 years, but in Germany, the average duration is about 2 days longer. I mean, in terms of we would all like, and we've talked about it every week for the last 18 months, about more convergence of standards across Europe, etc. I think it's improving, but to say we'll reach a nirvana where there'll be one standard, I wouldn't hold my hopes too high for that. But what we are seeing is the different countries are modifying their forms, and they're a lot simpler. Every modification makes it simpler and easier, and they're probably becoming more common. 6 months ago, some of the countries' forms were almost impossible to navigate.
Which was the worst?
I would hate to say, but there were some challenges.
But that was, of course, not in the interest of the country who created that form, was it, really?
No, but I think things were changing almost hourly at times. So, countries were having to respond. And again, you've got to be so admire the suppliers in the destinations, because they had to adapt the hotels to cope with social distancing, to cope with all the mask wearing, to adapt the buffets. The hoteliers have done an amazing job at such short notice. And I think, for me, what you take from that is how adaptive and how innovative, the travel industry is in terms of, adapting to the needs of customers. In this industry, there's a real DNA to serve customers, and do the best for customers. And I think through the pandemic, you've really seen that. In some cases, the regulations were changing, daily, and yet they've responded. And I think, for me, I've been out in destination quite a bit recently. I was in Turkey last week, and when you see the resilience of the employees in tourism, it gives you real energy, because, this is a sector where people really want to serve customers. And I think now we're coming out of the trenches as such, I think we'll see a real innovation, and energy, because, the employees really want to sort of drive the industry forward. It's been a really difficult time for anyone who works in the industry, but there's tremendous energy.
Now, some destinations are, of course, still difficult to reach. So those presumably still offer opportunity for you in terms of sales figures.
Yeah, most actually now are open. So as I mentioned last week, we saw the Dominican Republic open on Thursday. So most destinations are open. What you see now is some destinations are requiring additional tests. So if you're traveling to Asia, it's a bit more complicated around the tests you require to enter, and customers may make choices because of that. 2 weeks ago, Morocco decided, for whatever reason, that it wanted to restrict inbound tourism from Germany, the Netherlands, and the UK. So I think we will still see some of this happening. But in most destinations now, it is open, and that momentum is well and truly there.
But you're not in control, of course, in your business of all of your suppliers all of the time. You don't have complete control. So do you worry, this is a continual problem for you in a number of areas, but do you worry about standards, for example, being offered by suppliers, given that you're not in complete control? Or do you have a sort of playbook or something? How does it work?
No, last year, and I think this is one of the real benefits of the integrated model and the package model, because we have a closer link with our suppliers. So when we brought in the health and safety protocols last year, as well as the standards that were put in by the local authorities, TUI had a 10-point plan around the health and safety that we wanted suppliers to adhere to, and we didn't open hotels until they've been educated on that. But a lot of that was about education. It was about informing suppliers about what they needed to do. And I think customers can be reassured that, if you book with a tour operator or a package, you've got that extra support that we're working with the suppliers. You've got financial protection because you're booking a package. And as you probably know, we offered subsidized testing packages. So, through the summer when, let's face it, there were a lot of testing companies being very opportunistic about what they were charging. I mean, we were charging £20 for a testing package to a green destination, which we'd subsidise because we wanted to keep it simple, because we wanted to enable the opening up of travel. And I think, with package businesses, you've seen that. So I think there's been a real benefit for the package market because of that extra reassurance we can give.
So you really, in a way, were taking ownership of that process, of the COVID testing process?
Yeah, certainly at the beginning, yes. I mean, obviously, suppliers have had 18 months of it now, so it's very much in control. But I think because we are in the integrated business, we're a lot closer linked to the hoteliers to do that.
So I want to talk a little bit more about the future. We've established that we think business travel may not recover, but that's not your problem because that's not what you do. And you say that really, from your point of view, that it's very separate. Now, you should probably just explain to the audience, who may well know, that you own airplanes, and that's how you get around that problem. Because if, for example, you're getting on a plane where not as many business travellers who are effectively funding the rest of them are getting on, then presumably prices go up. So how do the economics work for you?
Yeah, I mean, for our airline, I think we're about the 10th biggest airline in Europe. We've got about 150 aircraft if you put all the different airlines together from our different markets. But, we're almost entirely sort of in the leisure market, selling sort of predominantly 7-night plus holidays. So we're not really affected in our own airline by, what happens, in the business segment. But obviously other airlines are. So I think we can just get on with sort of really driving the leisure market.
Mm-hmm. And you've said that people less keen perhaps on going on those short-haul holidays, but that might come back.
Short break. I think obviously short durations. If you're going to Barcelona for a coffee for 1 or 2 days or whatever, that market, can be more difficult because as I say, the testing regulations and form filling becomes a bit disproportionate, for the trip. So, but we're not really in that market, but we'll see. I'm sure as confidence increases, you start seeing the improvement across all segments.
So I want to ask about innovations for the future. Do you have 3 innovations that you could offer that how TUI is seeing the future of travel? And I need to ask the time as well, because I've got a nasty feeling I'm overrunning. Can somebody tell me the time? 11:45. Okay, yes. I've got time just to ask you for some innovations then.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, I think innovation's coming from a number of different areas. I mean, to start with in travel, you've got 2 trends which are really driving travel. One is the older generation have got more leisure time, they're living longer, they're healthier, they want to spend more of the money on travel and on experiences. And then you've got the younger generation who also are perhaps less into owning material goods and are also trending towards experiences. So this is really positive that the underlying trends are for spending more in experiences, and travel becomes a big part of that. So how are we responding to that in the industry? Well, we're constantly developing our product. And what's been fascinating in the pandemic is, companies have not stood still and hibernated. There's been very much a mentality, don't waste the crisis. Let's really, work on innovation in our business. And I think within TUI, we've particularly focused on innovation in our booking systems. We're moving much more to a one-stop travel shop across Europe. And what this really means is that customers, in a very digital way, can mass individualize or mass customize their holiday. So the level of customization.
That's interesting. Could you give me an example of that?
Yeah, I mean, like pre-bookable rooms. So basically, a few years ago, it would have been very difficult for people to book an individual room in hotels. But the combination of, technology and being very linked into the supply chain, like the package holiday operators are, allows us to operate in a way where we can sell specific rooms, or we can sell specific add-ons or add-on extra experiences to a much greater degree than what was possible 2 years ago, 5 years ago. So this ability for customers to tailor the holiday and say, I want room 215, is much greater than it would have been. And I think this is a combination of technology, but a desire to serve the customers and what they want. So this is a real trend you'll see. It's happening in TUI. I'm sure it's happening throughout the industry. And with the apps now, you've got an app where you can manage every part of your booking. You can modify your booking because we're offering greater flexibility. You can add extra experiences. And, you can do this almost at a touch of a button, whereas previously you might have had to make a request for something and it took hours, if not days, to get the request back. We can now do that in seconds or minutes. So real-time changes to holidays. And I think this is an area of innovation where the amount of choice we can offer in terms of products or options, could be 10 times higher than what it was a few years ago.
And are you looking then to add destinations? How are you looking to reshape the business?
I mean, in terms of destinations, it's not been our biggest priority, because our biggest priority over the next year has been, can we get things back to normal? But surely, the history of travel has been about the development of destinations. So a year from now, if I'm sat here, I'm sure I will be talking about new destinations we're looking at. At TUI in the UK, we've just launched river cruises, which is a new product. So there is still innovation or new products rolling out. But I think the focus over the next year has been to try and bring the business back to normal, to the sort of 2019 levels. And then all this innovation, particularly in technology and flexibility and customization, really roll that out.
Just finally, when you were talking about river cruises and so on, that suggested to me that maybe you were thinking again about domestic markets for people, that they might be interested in that in a way that they weren't pre-pandemic.
Across Europe, for sure, within TUI, we have a strong footprint in domestic markets. From Germany, we have a big overland market. If people are going to Croatia or Italy from Germany, it's often an overland business. Our overland or domestic tourism footprint within Europe has grown during the pandemic, not surprisingly, and it's getting bigger. So yeah, that is a big part of the business. But every customer segment will decide what they want to do.
Okay, description of 2022. How's it going to look for TUI?
I think real optimism around 2022, bringing the business back to normal, and a real energy in our employees, not just our employees, but in the employees across the whole global tourism sector, to really come out of this and make the travel industry stronger than ever.
I wish you luck. Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks very much.
And thank you to you. Thank you.